And I worried a lot, but I wasn't miserable, but I worried a lot. My mom taught me. She was a world champ worrier. So the bridge for runaway youth in Minneapolis. I've been there for a few years, and I worked in the usual way to find out what was wrong with people and then try and fix it. That got real exhausting because I could diagnose people and tell them what was wrong with them, but I didn't know how to teach people how to be happy. Had no clue. And nobody ever mentioned that in either undergraduate or graduate school. Nobody ever mentioned how to help people be happy. So I suppose it wasn't surprising that I didn't know how. So, but anyway, one day my boss said somebody had invited him to a workshop at the University of Minnesota Graduate School and he couldn't go. Did I want to go? And I didn't even care what it was about. I got 2 days off work, fine with me. So I went. It turned out it was 3 PhD psychologists from Florida who had spent some time with a man named Syd Banks. And that by itself didn't mean anything to me, but they started talking about what they had learned. And it turns out what they had learned is that all human experience is created by our individual thinking. I didn't hear a whole lot after that. I thought the top of my head was going to come off because it was like, that's it. It was like, I knew that was the truth. And I'd like to say then magically I was transformed into this person that could fly and do miracles and all that. Not so. I spent the next, I don't know, weeks, months throwing every argument I could at it. Because I wasn't used to kind of just taking somebody's word for something. So I remember thinking, okay, I'm a single mom with 3 kids. Half the time I don't have enough money. I'm really tired. That can't be my thinking. That's not my thinking. That's the situation that's making me feel that way. But then I would ask myself, well, does everybody in that same situation feel exactly the same way for exactly the amount of time I do? And I couldn't say yes to that. So I was willing to consider it might have something to do with thinking. But I would throw all kinds of things like that. Well, what if somebody dies? And what if this? And what if you get really sick? And what if somebody breaks up with you and all of that? That's not my thinking. Well, every time I said, but does everybody feel exactly the same way? Does everybody experience those circumstances in exactly the same way? And I could never come up with one that I could say yes to. So gradually I quit trying to disprove the whole thing and got more interested in the truth behind it. And I've kind of been at that ever since. It's not like I think I'm done learning about it. On the other hand, it is so simple. It is so simple that you wouldn't think it would take forever to get good at it. But we're so used to kind of believing everything we think and acting on it and making decisions based on it. And the idea that the less you try to figure everything out, the clearer things get, is foreign to most of us. And even though it's all very, very simple, it's not particularly easy to be simple at first. It's clumsy. It's awkward. We want to figure it out. We want to be able to explain it to ourselves. After that 2-day weekend, I went back on Monday morning, and all I knew for sure is that I couldn't work with people the same way I had been working with them. I knew that, like the sun was going to come up the next day. I knew that. The problem is I didn't know what I was going to do instead because I had no idea how to explain what I had just heard. I tried in my head to explain it, and it all sounds so far-fetched. I thought nobody's going to believe that. And so I decided that I just needed to be straight with my clients, and I had a full schedule. So I began with each of them and saying, I learned something over the weekend that makes it impossible for me to keep working with you in the way I have been working with you. But I have this list of really nice people who are really good at their job, and I'd like to refer you to them. Nobody took me up on it. I thought they were all crazy. Nobody took me up on, how would you like your therapist to come in and say, I can't work with you anymore, and I don't know what I'm going to do instead. And I learned something over the weekend, but I don't know what it is. Would you trust somebody like that? It was just crazy. But I found out later, a couple of the moms that called me and said, were you wondering why we stuck with you? And I thought, you know, to say the least, yes, I was wondering about it. And she said, because we could see something happen to you. And we wanted to know what that was because we wanted that. Now, Syd Banks always said, it's all about the feeling. It's always, everything's about the feeling. And I should have seen right away that that was an example of it. I was just being myself and telling the truth as I knew it, but they could see something. So I did gradually get better at talking about it, but it took a while. It took a while because there weren't any books, you know. I went to see Syd many times, and then there started to be other people that had been at it longer than me that had workshops and so forth, and I got better and better and better at it, and I'm still getting better at it and better at it.